Boom. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you, wherever you are, worldwide, globally, wherever you are. My name is Samuel Davis III, and I am here today to talk to you about holidays. Holidays. It's that time of the year. Some people say it's the most wonderful time of the year. Um, as I was preparing myself for having this conversation, I came to realize it's the most anxiety filled time of the year for me. Man, is it full of anxiety. I'm sitting back and I'm talking to myself and I'm thinking about deadlines and I'm thinking about what is it, New Year's resolutions, and I'm thinking about gifts and I'm thinking about purchasing gifts and did I get enough gifts or do I need to buy more gifts and the commercials that I see. Oh my gosh, the anxiety. It's a lot. And the thought for me was there ever a good time for me that I remember during these holidays as a young child? Sure. There was that anxiety of, am I going to get what I want for Christmas? Am I going to get what everybody else get? Am I going to get what he got or he says he's going to get for Christmas? That was a lot of anxiety as a kid, and especially if you didn't get some of the things that you thought you were going to get. So there was a lot of anxieties. Now there were other holidays that I did appreciate too, the greediness that Thanksgiving brings about. Every time you think about getting together and eating and getting stuffed, and it is brought on a whole new meaning for me this last couple of years, and this one in particular. We had some things going on in the family, health wise, and just makes you appreciate the thought of what Thanksgiving is and just being thankful for that time that we were all together. But it really just brought out a lot of anxiety. So my question, that was to my my people here today was, what is anxiety? Excuse me, I'm leading that one up. What do the holidays mean to you? Again, for me, I'm just going to go off of some of my notes real quick. I was remembering back on holidays for me, it was all about deadlines. It was all about New Year's resolutions. It was all about getting better next year than I was this year. That's what closing out this year strong. It was all these different things that just drove me absolutely crazy because the anxiety behind it was driving me crazy. So, as I said, I sat back and I started thinking about this. Here was a big one too. As I'm looking, relationships. When you're single, right before, or being that I am a divorcee, being single, and you get past having to buy gifts, but then it's like next year I plan on being in a relationship. Man, I'm going to get in a relationship next year. I'm going to get into a relationship next year. And all just the anxiety behind it. That's what I want to know. Oh, the other big one. Here, I got to bring this up. These last two, holiday pay. Now, let me tell you something. That was the one thing I liked about holidays, especially when people like to call in sick or people who got all this sentimental holiday emotions. They like to call in during 4th of July. They had to call in and sick during Christmas Eve as a kids. That allowed me as a single guy to get in and get that overtime that I was getting paid for. That's what holidays meant for me for a good long time, was getting that holiday pay. Double time and a half and all those were things I looked for. But this is probably the more difficult thing that I faced about holidays. The holiday attitudes, the holiday demeanors. Being that I worked public service, military, Trader Joe's, places where people come in and you sit back on Christmas Day and Thanksgiving is, hey, happy holidays, happy holidays. If you could just can that up and divvy that out throughout the year. There's about a good week where people just have this energy about them where they're all happy and where they're all ready to just spread this cheer of Christmas or Thanksgiving and holiday cheer around. But why can't they do it throughout the year? That's what I was curious about. So anyway, that's my question to you, Gordon, that I'm bringing you in now. We sat back and you heard me talk, and I want to know what it is that holidays mean for you.
Mm, that's a good question, man. Holidays. are an interesting time of the year because there are some people that are, they want to be happy. They're saying Merry Christmas, they're saying Happy Thanksgiving, and then you have the political correctness side where should I say Happy Holidays or should I say Merry Christmas specific? Should I say Happy Thanksgiving? Because some people can get offended, and you don't want to be that one that offends people, and so I think for me personally, when I was younger, well, growing up as a kid, I come from a very humble background, financially speaking. But my mom, even though my mom tried really hard to make sure that we had some kind of a festive time during Thanksgiving and Christmas. Even though I'm not Christian, I never was Christian or anything like that. We did. My mom would do the traditional turkey and the all the sides and the potatoes and the green beans and all of that stuff, the stuffing. Traditional, really good meal, right? And to be able to have that time with family. And then same thing with Christmas. My mom, when I was really young, would actually stay up, send us to bed, and wrap all the presents, and so that the night before there was nothing there, but the next morning there was a bunch of presents under the tree. And she, as we got older, obviously she realized that we knew what was going on, right? But she worked so hard on trying to create that for us, and I think it had to do with the fact that that's what she grew up with, and it was a special time for her, right? She wanted to pass that on. But then also, growing up in a Mexican household, you didn't always go to bed on Christmas Eve. You actually stayed up till midnight, and then at midnight you would celebrate Christmas.
Mm.
In some households, and then there was tamales and things like that. Which, I mean, the tamales are always good, right? So I'm all good with that. But I think that it's gotten to a place where it is more stressful. It does create more anxiety. It is it. I almost think about like I like keeping up with the Joneses or status or things like that. Like you want to get the right presents, and you want to be able to. You want to when you give somebody a present, you want their face to light up like you got that real, like you got the best present for everybody, and you want. And then if you're not, depending on where you are financially, that can be really stressful too. And you hear news reports of credit card debt going sky high during the holidays, and it's all, I feel like it's people wanting to impress others, unfortunately. And it happens to all of us, right? I know for me, Christmas time can be a little stressful trying to find gifts, and I'm not necessarily trying to spend a lot of money, but I want to find that right gift. Like I want to find something that is not just a pair of socks or a tie or something like that. I want to find something that really fits the person's, you know, uh, interests and things like that. And so that can be difficult. Last year in our family, we finally decided, and we've kind of done it in the past, but we really decided that gifts would only be for the kids. So anybody 18 or over wouldn't necessarily get a gift. It was just for the kids. And that honestly, that really relieved a lot of stress. I think I actually I did get one gift for my sister, but only because it was this small little thing that I knew she was going to really like. But other than that, none of the grown-ups got gifts, and we had a really good time. And I think everybody, I want to say it relieved a lot of stress for everybody as far as the
Mhm.
gift giving. But yeah, I mean that's, I guess that's some of the thoughts. I know that there's a lot of emotions tied to the holidays. You're watching the movies and the TV shows, and they're all holiday themes from like right after Halloween. It starts with all of this. All the TV shows are right on point with the themes, and the movies are right on point with all of that. That it almost creates this mindset of at our home we want to have this traditional, and if we don't, does that mean that other people are better than us because they got the trees and they got the lights and they got this and they got that? It can be this emotional roller coaster, I think. And so I think that's something that in the last, maybe, and for me personally, in the last 10 years, I've kind of just avoided altogether. Like I'm not going to let it mess with me. I need to be good with me because I need to be good with my wife and I need to be good with my boys, and I can't be this stress ball because of the commercialization of Christmas, I guess, or Thanksgiving and or both, whatever. So some of the thoughts that come to my head, I know I kind of went all over the place, but just some of what I was thinking about.
No, that's cool because I was thinking while you were talking, what were your favorite holidays growing up? You
Mm.
know, because I never thought you were raised as a Mexican American. Did you celebrate what are Mexican holidays other than Cinco de Mayo? And that's Americanized for us,
That's not even
you
Mexican.
know.
Yeah.
So
So I think Christmas is probably the biggest holiday for a traditional Catholic Mexican household, right? And so my dad grew up Catholic. I wouldn't say he necessarily was Catholic, but he grew up Catholic and to some extent, right? And so the traditions kind of stuck to him and were passed on to us to some degree. And there's a thing called posadas, which is a big celebration, and I'm not super familiar, but it's a thing where the whole community comes together and they actually walk down the street and there's food and there's music and it's a pretty big celebration, and that's a big one. As far as Cinco de Mayo goes, it's not really that big, unfortunately. Like you said, it's more of an American holiday. There is there's the actual independence of Mexico is celebrated by through a holiday that I know of as El Grito, which means the scream or the yell or whatever. It's basically, my understanding is the yell for independence, the independence of Mexico, and so that's in September. So it's nowhere near Cinco de Mayo, right? And it has to do with Mexico as a country gaining independence through the war that they were in or whatever. Um, but I think there's a lot of connection with Catholicism. So, you know, we always celebrated Easter, and
mm,
Easter was a big thing.
mm,
Um, but that's, I don't know, in my upbringing, that was most of it, right? Christmas, Easter, maybe the Independence Day, Mexican Independence Day. Birthdays were a big deal to get together with family, quinceañeras and things like that, which are also
yeah.
kind of, it's birthday slash, I'm not sure what it's called in English, but it's a Catholic thing. But that's, I want to say that's it that I can think. I mean, New Year's was a thing, but Christmas always completely outshined New Year's, at least in my household.
What is that?
Um,
Posadas? He said posadas,
Posadas, yeah, Posoda, I think.
and
Or
that was and that was
Posada.
that was what? What is that for again?
That was a celebration. It has to do with Christmas, and so it's. I want to say it's all over Latin America. It's not just Mexico, but
Mm,
it's something where the people get together and celebrate, and it has to. It's like a community celebration, though. It's not just households. It's like the whole neighborhood gets together.
mm,
Everybody's outdoors, and sometimes they will walk down the streets, and I don't know if they sing or have music, something like that. But it's like if you go to Mexico, Christmas is like a week long celebration. It's not just a one night thing.
wow,
It really is, and so. But
mm,
that there's a strong connection, from my understanding, to Catholicism. It's obviously, as Christmas is a religious holiday, right? And so
right,
that's
right.
kind of what it is.
That was part of the Spanish bringing in that part of the
Mhm. Yeah,
the
because I mean,
tradition.
the Mayans and the Incas and the Aztecs weren't celebrating Christmas, right?
Yeah, they sure weren't. They sure won't.
Yeah.
That's the part that gets me. This holiday, it was really interesting. Um, I would get texts from people, and how do I say, since I've like as I've mentioned, I recently changed my religion. I started really watching the things that I say, and
Mm.
how I go about saying them because they're the history behind it. I'm watching the history behind a lot of things. They say, "Hey, happy Thanksgiving!" Hey, I get text messages from guys I work with for years. Happy Thanksgiving, man. Hey, blah. And I'm kind of like, hey, happy holiday to you. Some of them I joke and say, hey, happy Colonizers Day. I say stuff like that,
Right.
and I joke, but I'm kind of being honest though.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I was so caught up, and that's like I said when I was writing this stuff down. It was like I started getting anxiety, and this is what comes from the colonizers. I
It
mean,
really, all of this stuff really is,
yeah,
if you're in the US, you call it colonizing. If you're in Latin America, it's conquistadores. They come over and
yeah,
conquered, right? And it really is traditions brought over from Europe to, northern and southern and Central America, really, I think,
mhm.
so.
Dude, it's a bad feeling because it's something that you're used to and you think is normal. Like real talk with my children, we didn't celebrate Christmas. What we did was, in particular, we were living overseas.
Mm,
I used to teach English in Tokyo.
mhm,
We would use Christmas as exactly for what it was. It was commercial, and we would
mm,
bring over Japanese students, and we would decorate a Christmas tree for them, and then simulate doing Christmas gifts and opening Christmas gifts, and then we tear it down, and I go and I pick up the next family from the train station, and we do it all over again, and we set it
really,
up. It was like commercial. Got paid really well, but we
really,
paid into it, man. And I sit back now and I just think, we cashed in on it, and I can't say anything more. I cashed in on it too, but it means more to me now, respecting those that those holidays were meant to, uh, step on or celebrate, because that's pretty much what a lot of these holidays are, is overcoming something. Somebody got crushed so that this holiday could be what it is. So
yeah.
um, I do not like I do not like the fact that it leaves me feeling a certain way now that I'm paying more attention to it now. It's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. I kind of feel like that with Thanksgiving. Like I think of
Mhm.
Thanksgiving and growing up, I grew up here in Oceanside and I went to Oceanside schools, public schools, right? And the story, right, the narrative was that the European pilgrims and the Native Americans came together in harmony and had a big, meal together, right?
Mhm.
But that's not necessarily the case. And so it was actually more it was actually more tragic. It was more of a sad experience as we start to learn more over the years as to what the reality was back then. And you know it's not necessarily a time to give thanks, right? It's not necessarily, it shouldn't be necessarily a festive holiday, right? And so I think part of it, and I was thinking about this earlier when I saw your post as to what we were going to talk about today, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I can go either way, but I would more so lean towards saying we shouldn't celebrate it, and we should be more respectful of what truly happened. But at the same time, it's like it's like your family gets together, like when we're here at home, we don't necessarily, in my house, we don't necessarily celebrate really either of these holidays. We don't celebrate really Thanksgiving, we don't really celebrate Christmas because we're not Christian. But when we do, it's usually with family. It's at my dad's house or whatever, and it's a very traditional setting. And so I can either get um all negative about it and upset and argumentative or whatever the case, or I can embrace the fact that that response that everybody says, right? It's a time for families to get together, right? And depending on who you ask, some people say, okay, that's just an excuse to not feel guilty, or other people are like, no, that's not a bad reason, that's a good reason. It's always good to have family get together. I mean, I can. turn Thanksgiving into a big argument between the people that believe that the more traditional setting is good, and to then people that are like, no, we gotta remember what truly happened and the truth and all. And I don't know. Is there a point to creating an evening of argument? Right? Is there a point to doing that? Is that going to help anything? So it's like anything else, right? It's like anything else. It's you. There's always opposing opinions or perspectives to any topic. You pick the most controversial topics, whether it's politics or religion or like gender identity things. You either agree to disagree and be mutually respectful to each other and have a little harmony, or you fight it out and both sides want to convince the other that they're right. And what do you do, right?
Mhm.
And so I think what we try to do is we have a good time, we spend time with family, but I try to make sure that my boys know the truth, at least what I accept to be the truth, right? I wasn't around in the hundreds of years ago during that time to say for a fact this happened or that happened or that happened, but I tend to believe that it was a time of colonizing and conquering and all of that, and it wasn't this harmony dinner that was between the natives and the Europeans. So I try to make sure that my boys know the truth, at least again what I believe to be the truth.
Well. Speaking of truth, do you have you ever truly gotten emotional over the holidays? Have you ever been like, oh man, I miss this at this time of the year, man? All of a sudden I remember that Thanksgiving in 1978 when I was in New York, with my family. Then we crossed over, went to Philly, and I remember the food that we had. I remember the time. Do you have any ties like that? Do you have any emotional ties to any holidays at all?
It's not those two. I would say I have an emotional tie to a Baha'i holiday because I'm a Baha'i, right? And I practice the Baha'i faith. And there's a Baha'i holiday called Ayamiha, or the
Wow.
intercalary days. And they are kind of it's a 4-day period where it's the end of one year and it's the in between days before the next year starts. If I could be explaining it wrong, but it's a day of gift giving. It's a day of celebration. It's a day of helping others that may not have as much. It's a day
Oh wow.
of it's a day of giving, really, more than anything. And it is a day of gift giving as well. So we do have gifts and things like that. But my connection to that is that when I was a kid, every year right before Yamiha, we would receive this big cardboard box.
Mm-hmm.
And this big cardboard box came from my grandparents in New York. And we opened it up, and every year it was full to the brim of different pastries and cookies, and it was like something to look out. And that box lasted, it was a lot of stuff, right? It lasted weeks from when we got it, and then as we got older, it lasted less and less, right? It was going disappearing quicker. But it was, for me, that was such a special time because I didn't get to see my grandparents very often. We would see them maybe once every couple of years or something like that. And it was this long distance relationship, right? But we could count on that box, the Yamiha box from my grandparents that came every year. And it was full of, I mean, I don't know what they did, but they were making all kinds of pastries to put in that box. And they were like really beautiful. Like it was artistry that went into the pastries that went into that box. And so that's something that, obviously when my grandparents got older and they weren't able to do that physically anymore, it went away. And it was something that I do
Mm-hmm.
remember. And I think, man, it would be amazing if something like that kept continued. Maybe a family tradition. I've never thought of maybe continuing myself. Like I wouldn't be able to make them as good as they did, but I could make some, the Toll House chocolate chips has the recipe on the back of the package, right? I could make some cookies probably. But that was one thing that I did have a connection to emotionally growing. As I got older, it went away, and I was like, man,
what,
that was
what
one of
time?
the things.
What time of year is that?
That is February, if I remember correctly. I want
Mm,
to say during the end of February.
February.
Yeah, February. I'm looking it up while I got you on the 25th to the 29th.
So it's a 4 days,
Yeah,
4 day
yeah,
festival,
4 day
25th to
celebration. Yeah,
29th.
yeah.
Huh. A yummy, huh? And are the pastries? Is that something affiliated with it, or that just what you just
No, that was just my
just what they did?
grandparents. Yeah, yeah. My grandparents are Swedish Welsh, and so for
Wow.
them, traditionally, I think that's just something that they wanted to do, bake and do, do all kinds of stuff with fancy baking, like really elaborate stuff.
Does your mom bake?
She used to, yeah, yeah. My mom used to bake and cook and everything, really, really good. Yeah,
Uh, yeah.
yeah.
I kind of hear I kind of hear the how good those pastries are the way you were talking
Oh
about
my gosh, yeah.
it.
When that box came, I'm telling you, because in Christmas you get a bunch of different presents and stuff, right? But even though it's not about quantity, it's about quality. When that
Mm,
box came, oh my gosh, it was like the best day in the best day of the year when that box came.
mm. I would when I was in the Air Force, I started out as the air traffic controller, and then I cross trained into the post office so I could travel and play football, right? And so when working in the post office, I think it that was probably the start of how do I say? I, so when you're overseas as a military person, getting packages from home
Hmm.
is huge. It
The
is
care packages, yeah.
really huge, and um, I saw that. I loved holidays at Christmas. We were very busy, but what we got so many people that would volunteer to come working in the post office. When I went to, because I was in England at my first base, we would have volunteers come in, and it was just a big thing. Everybody came to the post office because the post office was a hub of everything. And I appreciated the Christmas spirit, as they call it, of people coming in and wanting to volunteer. I left there and I went to Tokyo. I was there for 7 years, and we would get volunteers from the school, kids that were getting in trouble, and I bring them in and have them help us open up mail bags and pitch mail out. That was a big thing, and I
Mm.
really really appreciated um, the people that I work with there. So
Um,
much so that my reunion that I had for the military, I hosted my Air Force reunion. It wasn't the Air Force reunion. It was just the postal guys.
mhm.
I
One
mean,
department.
yeah, I mean it was. I mean, everybody came from all different places around the world, and we met in Vegas.
Nice.
It was just that was my way of saying goodbye to the military, because it was those people. There was a lot of great memories that I remember working the holidays at a post office. Man, giving out. People getting packages from home. Like, I never had venison before.
Mhm.
Venison, man. When you get stuff from home and you realize what people make is certain things. I didn't know what a snickerdoodle was.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Until I started getting all the people started, hey man, I got some snickerdoodles. What is that?
What is that? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was
Yeah,
great.
that's awesome. Yeah.
It was great. Definitely was something similar to, like, I guess your experience with the now we're gonna be talking about food. I guess the other day you
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 could
you
always
had
count on me.
yeah, the other day when you posted about this Samoan food that you had
Oh
at the
man.
place, man, talk to me about that. How did that work
Oh
out?
man. So I've been fortunate enough to volunteer with a group here in Oceanside called SOS, Save Our Streets. And it's a youth advocacy group that volunteers and works in the different gang claim neighborhoods in Oceanside.
Hmm.
And it's led by, for the most part, by a man named Wayne Godinay and family, right?
Mhm.
And this has grown and expanded, and now we have a strong relationship with a group that's out of Cal State San Marcos, called APIDA. It's Asian Pacific Islander, and I can't remember the last two letters of the abbreviation, but the focus is to create more awareness, more unity, more diversity, and things like that. And they work at the university, but we've been working with them, and they had a workshop for it was how to respond to like microaggressions and in a
Mm,
positive way. And so like if you're ever in a situation, it could be you could be at work, you could be with family, you could be anywhere, and there's a conversation and somebody said something to kind of jab at somebody, right? So kind of maybe under their breath or something, like not full on attacking, but just little things to kind of belittle or demean somebody else. And this workshop was like how to respond to that as a third party, not even as one of the two, how to
mm.
jump in and defend the person that's being kind of
Oh wow.
jabbed at,
Mm,
but while maintaining integrity for everybody, uplifting everybody, not
wow.
attacking the attacker, and not, so it was a really great workshop. But I say all that to say that it was catered by a Samoan catering company, and the food was just amazing. Um, there was rice, and there was chicken, and there was this other stuff called oka, which is like it's almost like a Samoan ceviche. It's like a cold fish, almost like a soup stew type thing. And there was taro root, and
Mm.
oh my gosh, there was so I can't even remember everything that was there. It was a feast, like this long table just lined up with Samoan food. And then this past Saturday, again, there was an SOS gathering. It was a Samoan Mexican cultural celebration in
Mm.
at John Landis Park, and so they had Samoan food there, and they had all kinds of. So I love diversity, and I love diverse
Food.
food. I like to try different foods and stuff. Even if I'm just trying it once, that's okay. I want to try it, and I want to get that experience. But I want like the real deal, not the commercialized version of it or whatever, pre-packaged, none of that. Like I want to try the real, as
Right.
close it is to tradition as possible. And I've had that opportunity recently,
Mm.
twice in a very short period of time. So it was really good.
Dude, yeah, I would love to have some. I haven't had Samoan food. We when I lived in the valley, behind us, we had the David Tatuis. We had the let me see, Tatuis. We had Sametas, Tatuis.
Mm,
Um, who was this? I can't think of all the clans that we had, and in
mm,
particular, right behind us, right behind our houses were next door to each other from behind, and
mm,
they bought about 3 houses on the street behind ours, and they broke down all the fences, and I would look over the fence. And I look at these kids all running around playing football, all through running from one to the house all the way through the other, and then they dig a hole in the ground and bury the pig and have that.
mm,
Oh man, and that pig will
mm.
be smoking for hours. Oh
Yeah,
man, those are some good old days. Those are some good old
yeah.
days. And I don't know if it was necessarily holidays because I never asked them what their holidays were. It's
Mhm,
kind of funny now that you think about it. Christmas is almost a universal thing that goes
mhm,
globally. We have Valentine's Day. I think is pretty global. I know it's big in Japan. It's funny in Japan. It's actually a cultural thing in Japan. Let me see. Is that New Year's or Christmas? That you buy KFC chicken and you give it.
Really?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, wow.
It's part of the culture over there that you
Interesting.
buy
In
KFC and you give it as a gift to someone. It's really
Really?
crazy how marketing has gotten overseas, and that's like I said, that anxiety, that was born into what I was. It's pushed globally, that
Oh, yeah.
whole thing of propagandizing and getting into the pockets of the common everyday man, it's kind of frustrating, and it
Oh yeah.
really just when does it end? You know?
Yeah, yeah. I think you're absolutely right. When you were talking earlier about emotions connected to holidays, um, I think for me when I was younger, when I was probably in my 20s, um, I think for me, I had like these little emotional roller coasters during the holidays because I wanted to have a special experience, and I wanted to have something that was really nice. But reality is not that it's never like that, right? And I want to say that whole idea, that concept or that image, that narrative, I want to say it was controlled by media. I want to say, like I said earlier, the TV shows and the movies, they paint this picture and like you want to have that, like and like and when in real life that wouldn't happen, I'd get down a little bit like, man, I tried to create that same experience and it wasn't like that. And finally I just got to a point where I was like, you know what? I need to I need to stop just letting these other entities tell me how to live, how to have my
Mhm.
experience for the holidays or for whatever. But yeah, I think the commercialization of all of this is crazy, right? It is
Mhm.
like you think about like the Black Friday madness that they not so much anymore, but that used to happen. People getting trampled and people spending the night up front of stores and people and but it's like it takes so long to recover financially speaking from all the debt that's built up during those holidays, and it's all to impress somebody else,
Mhm.
whether it's the person you're giving to, whether it's that the people that are around you while you're giving it, like when they open that present, they're it's like you want to make everybody feel like you're the man, you got the best present, and and it's crazy. And honestly, you know um business or corporations or whatever you want to call it, they kind of do that to almost every holiday, for every single holiday,
Yeah.
and they'll even create their own holidays out of all of this, now we got Cyber Monday. It's like Cyber Monday.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like
Jeez.
Black Friday is not enough. Now we need Cyber Monday and
Yeah.
and then like you said earlier, Cinco de Mayo. I wonder, the tequila companies I'm sure make a killing, and it's not even not necessarily a real holiday.
Ooh,
And
man.
so there's so much of that, and honestly, I feel like a lot of people, it messes with people emotionally when they don't when they can't have those experiences, they can't buy those nice presents, they can't, they don't go to the different celebrations and parties and whatnot because they can't afford whatever the expenses that go along with it or whatever.
Mhm.
And you hear about people that stay home and they're not having the best time. You think about things like suicide and all of that, and it's like it's
Mhm.
horrible that it gets to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I know since and I say this because I'm a new Baha'i member. It's like
Mm,
I have really learned just to take things as they come when they come now.
mhm,
Um and not to necessarily question things, but just to be curious more about things. And like as I mentioned to you before, I've always had a curiosity of things and where they originate from. But as a Baha'i member, I sit back and I go, now, why? How 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 can I take this and use this for a better to for the betterment of the world in my community? And I say it sounds
mhm,
weird, it sounds corny, but and I had to say this. I feel like I want to pat myself and my wife on the back. We wanted to help our community, and I mentioned we worked with Jimmy Figueroa for his campaign manager. He came and he asked for us specifically, hey, you
mm,
know, I want you guys to come help out, and more so Kelly. let's be real.
Yeah, that's right.
My wife is an organizer, but
Yeah,
the thing is, when you get one of us, you get both of us, and that's part of the package deal
that's
of
right.
Kelly and Sam. But we're going in tomorrow for his inauguration. And
Swearing in,
that's
that's
one of
right.
the things where you sit back and you want to help your community, and this is how you do it. This is
Mhm.
something that we did, and I'm so thankful. And the other day, and matter of fact, you met Venus, right?
Yes. Yep.
We get a call the other day. Kelly goes, Samuel, she comes around. I said, what? She's coming running to the room. She got the phone on speakerphone. It's Air Force One. Venus is on Air Force One. She's called, she gave us a call with her and Joe Biden. They were in Angola. She's in the Air Force One.
Wow.
Give us a call. We get to talk to her. And it's one of those things where you look at something that started right here in Oceanside,
That's right.
and has global reach,
Mm,
and it just makes me feel good that to have a finger like on the pulse of certain things. Venus
mm,
wanted to become president of the United States. That's what she told Kelly. you
mhm,
know Now she got to the point where she's worked as the ROTUS, which is the receptionist of the United States, the first Black female
mm,
receptionist of the United States. And she works right under with the with Jill Biden,
mm.
directly with Jill Biden. So
Wow.
she's been there the whole term that he's been in the administration. And I talked with her and I asked her, hey, you still want to be president? No, I don't want to be
No
president.
more. Good for
no,
her. Good for she could
no,
do more than that.
don't want to be president. No, the
Yeah.
president, that's a position because he has a lot of handlers around him.
Yeah.
So she's
Yeah.
seen how it works.
Yeah.
And now she's ready to work on getting her law degree. So
Good
it's
for
one of those
her.
things that you just start seeing where things start tying in and what my place is, and I'm very happy with my standing. And I'll say probably this last year since I've been studying Baha'i and going through weekly meetings and having um I guess I can't even say it because I just missed on that last holiday. Did you go Saturday to the
Yeah, Saturday, yeah, there was the reflection. Yeah. Yeah.
reflection? That's it. And talk to me about that. Now, is that a holiday or is that a regular thing?
No, that's not a holiday. That's more of a community gathering, a social action gathering where we come
Okay.
together to reflect on the activities that have been going on in the prior. It's a quarterly thing in the last 3 months prior, and we just reflect on what's and it's 5 different neighborhoods from Del Mar, Solana Beach, Encinitas, Carlsbad, Oceanside, and Vista. Is that 5 or 6? I can't remember how. And so it's these 5 neighbor or cities that come together to talk about what happened in this community, what happened to that community, what were your successes, what were your opportunities to learn and grow and things like that to improve. And so that's more so what that is. It's more of an organizational meeting than a holy day. It's not necessarily a holy day.
Mm.
And it was just a good way to see what's going on in the surrounding communities, to see what they're doing, what we're doing, and how can we maybe help each other, how can we learn from each other. And it's a really good, and we really recently, I mean, it's always kind of been like this, but recently we've been putting a lot of focus on the youth and trying to uplift the youth and bring and honestly, we're learning from the youth at this point. The youth are the ones that are really taking action these days. And so, Shogi and Carmel and Isabella, and then my boys, and there's other youth and like out of Encinitas and more youth in Vista, and their youth are on fire right now, and it's
Wow.
just so amazing to see the next generation really just more so like I was about to say stepping up, but it's not even so much stepping up. It's just they're just owning it. They're like, look, our faith says these are the things we want to work on. We want to build community. We want to help others. We want to work together. And they're like, but this is how it needs to be done. And they're actually telling us like, we got to do it like this. We got to do that. And it's just a great thing to see. And so we do that every 3 months. We get together just to kind of see how everybody's doing. How can we help each other? So I wouldn't call it a holiday, but it's a really beautiful thing, and there's always food. So right.
Well,
So
see, it's funny because it was not funny, but when I was stationed in the UK, I was there for 3 years, and we had this thing there where the black community, the black churches, we call it the
mm,
tri-monthly. So in
mm,
the UK, there are about 10 Air Force. There was about 10. Was it 10? Maybe about 10 different military bases there all throughout the UK. And
mm,
we call it tri-monthly. And it
mhm.
was all the black gospel services. We would
Oh,
all meet up at one of the other places every 3 months. And man, we had a time, man.
I bet. Yeah.
If you were a single guy, you got to meet all the other girls, look for other
Right.
girls. But we all met up in each base would get up and sing or make a presentation.
Mm,
So it's kind of like what you're talking about. That
mm,
kind of that kind of registers as a holiday almost to a point, because if you're really into it, man, I mean, man, believe me, it
yeah.
was exciting. It was
Yeah.
really exciting to go and get up there and hear what's going on. I mean, that sounds like, and I will say this, because as I was talking with my wife, and I'm getting off track right now, but she was
Sorry.
like saying, when I was explaining to her about what Carrie was saying, what you guys were doing with that, she was like, that sounds like something. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna push. I'm gonna go. Oh, she just was saying how bad she wanted to go to that,
Yeah.
and that's kind
Yeah.
of a cool thing. And now that it's recirculating right now,
Yeah,
I'm
our quarterly reflections are not they're not they're not technically Baha'i. I mean, the Baha'is organize them, but they're not technically Baha'i gatherings. I mean, we have people, anybody who's involved in activities, whether they're Baha'i or not, is welcome and it's open. Wayne from SOS has come and presented information on what
oh,
SOS has been doing. Oscarin came one time and talked about what
oh,
lived experiences is doing. And so
oh,
it's just if it's good activities, community activities in the communities that we represent, then they're more than welcome to come and let's just talk about what good everybody's doing. And
right.
so it's open to anybody and everybody for sure.
Cool. As I'm sitting around messing around with my chair, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. You're
You
good.
see, I just sucked down about 3 feet, it seems like, but
Full rider.
man, but wow, cool, man. So look, that was a great conversation. We're gonna go ahead and end this on that note. Then we had a great conversation about what holidays are and how they affect us. I think that to a point, I can see how traditions like that, holidays, can be important to inform, to pass on information. They can also become preachy. They can also get a little long-winded, but for the most part, they can leave um, a lot of impressions on people.
Yeah.
They can sit back there and say, "Hey, like I said, the thought about those tri-monthlies came to my mind, and
Mhm.
they were really great. They were
Yeah.
really great, and that really almost excites me more about getting ready for the next one when that comes up 3 months from
Mhm.
now. So I'm looking forward to that. So with that being said, um, that's another one in the books today on holidays.
There you
Gordon, have a great day, and I will see you this evening as well.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Man.
All right. We'll take
All
care.
right.
We'll talk later.
All right, man. Sounds good. I'll see you later.
All right. Bye-bye.